How's everybody doing? It's Craig here again. It's been quite a while, I know. Not going to get into it, but just life issues. I did purchase a STIHL MS380 cloned kit. I don't know, it's been 3, 4, 5 years ago now that I've had it on the shelf. I finally got it together the last couple, 3 or 4 weeks or so. And for the most part, it runs good. But there's an issue with it. And I wasn't really going to make a video, but this is something that's been talked about on these saws, but I want to kind of show what I think the issue is, and it goes in line with what other people has talked about online in different videos, but I'm going to try to explain as to why I think the issue exists. So I'm not going to show no running or nothing like that. This is just going to be all talk. So if you don't want to watch it, that's fine, but somebody may find it interesting. Put the saw together, started it, ran fine, idled great, tuned it, done a few cuts at about 1/2 to 3/4 throttle, run fine, absolutely wonderful, really. Then I went to do some cuts at full throttle, and this is where I ran into the issues. The saw would rev up, and then it would start acting like it was either losing spark, dying. It would slow down, then it would pick back up like it was picking spark back up. So I done an ignition test with an inline spark tester. As it was not running, as it was acting like it was dying, I still had spark. So I thought that was pretty strange. So I put a different spark plug in it. Same results. It would go to full throttle momentarily, and then it would just act like it was dying, maybe starving for fuel. As soon as it would slow down some, it would pick back up, run to full throttle, then it would shut back off, go down in RPMs, and it would pick back up, go to full throttle, and it kept doing this until I let off the throttle to about 3/4 or so, and then it would run fine. So my next thought was, well, maybe the metering lever isn't set correctly. So I took the carburetor off, took it apart, clean as a whistle inside, metering level was set perfect, made sure the diaphragms was on the right side of the gaskets, installed correctly. They were. I went on ahead and took my little cleaning wire, went through the passages just to make sure that something wasn't plugged up. Everything, was fine. Put it back together, same results. It would go to full throttle momentarily, then it would slow down. It would quit running, act like it lost spark, slow down, then it would pick back up and go back up to full throttle until I let off the throttle to roughly about 3/4, then it would run fine. So I took the fuel filter out of it, thought it might have been a fuel delivery issue from the tank. So I took the fuel filter out, checked it checked good, even though it's the clone filter. I put it back in. I done a pressure test on the tank, pressure vacuum test on the tank. It passed, no leaks. Tank vent was functioned properly. It would build pressure, but it wouldn't build vacuum. As it built pressure, the hose, obviously the supply fuel line passed the test. It didn't have any leaks in it. This particular model, the pulse is supplied through the intake manifold. So I done another pressure vacuum test on the engine itself, this time blocking off on the intake side of the carburetor, and it passed according to STIHL's recommendations of, I'm not sure right off the top of my head, but I think it's like 3 pounds over 30 seconds. I could be wrong with that, I'd have to look, but it was well within their limits for STIHL, so I considered it a pass. So I kept messing with it. I thought, well, maybe it is the carburetor. So I got online. I purchased a new old stock STIHL carburetor. I've got it installed right now. I can't remember the exact model, but it was an OE carburetor that I purchased, put on it, done the exact same thing. Full throttle for momentary, 15, 20 seconds, then it would start cutting out, dying. RPMs would drop, it would pick back up and take off and go. So I checked the ignition circuit again, make sure, I wasn't losing spark through the lead wire. Made sure that the spring was embedded down into the lead wire, which everything was okay there. I completely isolated the kill circuit from the coil, still done it. So that basically told me that the entire kill circuit was good. So I posted online to one of the chainsaw forums. I think it was Chainsaw Repair, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been Farmertec Chainsaw Kits and Builders. Anyway, I posted my issue online. And of course, right off the bat, everybody starts throwing out, do a pressure test. Well, let me back up. When I posted this, I actually explained everything that I had done up to that point. Every test that I had performed, I put in my explanation as to what was going on and what I had done to that point. So immediately everybody started telling me to do things that I had already done. And it's like, people don't read. They just read the heading, then they immediately start throwing their ideals out without reading the entire body of the context. So I'm having people tell me to check the fuel tank vent, to check the pulse line, to check the fuel line, to check the filter, to do a pressure vac test, put a spark plug in it, which I done also. I put a known good spark plug in it. Check the gap on the coil, which I run at 12 thousandths. All this stuff I had already done. And here I've got people telling me, this is what's wrong with it. Do this, do that, and do the other. Well, I knew none of that was the issue. So nobody never really told me to check what the issue was that I found. So there was one guy that did kind of briefly say this is what he replaces with OE parts when he builds one, but he didn't say this particular part specifically was my cause. He just says, he's got common parts that he replaces with OE parts on every build that he does. Well, that kind of got me to thinking. So I started doing some investigating into the choke, because the choke on this particular model is actually in the air filter and is actuated on the inside of the air filter off of a lever on your start-stop selector choke switch. Kind of similar to the 066, but completely different in manners of how it's applied. So I'll turn you over here and then I'll explain what I found and what I'm sure my problem was, because now the saw actually runs the way it's supposed to after I installed the new part. So let me switch you over here. Okay, what you're looking at here on the left is the supplied air filter that come with the MS380 kit. Okay, what I've got here on the right is a replacement filter, because they're no longer offered by STIHL for OE filters. A replacement filter from Travis Creek Duke Saw Salvage. Okay, what was happening as the saw was running and when it went to full throttle? Okay, when it goes to full throttle, you can see the butterfly in there is completely open. When it goes to full throttle, it creates a draw through the venturi of the carburetor, which everybody should understand that. And this plunger on the inside this air filter, okay, it is, when you select choke, it's going to be kind of hard to do it. I'm doing this on my phone, but it'll actually push the selector, switch on off selector, will push against this little white tab, and it'll push that plunger shut, and that's your choke for these saws. So what I figured out was going on with this in place, like so. Let me see if I can set it in here. Okay. I don't know if you will be able to see, but right down in there, you can see that little white ear. I'll be right back. I'll tighten this down. I'll put it on proper. Okay, I've got it tightened down. Still can't see it. I think you can, but we'll put a little bit of light on the subject. There, you can see that little white tab down in there, right underneath the mounting screw. Right down in here. Okay. So what was happening was when I went to full throttle, that little plunger that you've seen that sets down inside of here that creates the choke was fluttering open and closed, and it was actually choking the saw out. So it was just like you was trying to start it. It was putting too much gas to it and causing it to flood. When I'd come off full throttle, there wasn't enough air being drawn through the filter to make that little plunger flutter. So then it would pick back up and run. So in all my wisdom, I thought, well, if that's all it is, that's spring tension, because that is underneath spring tension. The spring tension isn't enough. I better leave this on here so I can show you. So I took the filter apart because it is like three pieces. It's the back, the front, and then the little plunger piece in there. And then you've got a little shaft and a spring on this one here that actually is down in here that you can't see on this one. So I took it apart and I put one wrap on the spring to tighten it up. In my thinking, if it doesn't have enough spring pressure to hold it open, I can just put one wrap on it, give it more spring pressure. Now it's going to stay open. Well, that created a secondary issue. And hopefully we can see this, because I've only got two hands. So what happens now, yeah, it's too dark down in there. Let me see if I can turn my light on here. Nope. Flashlight. There we go. So right there is a little white lever that operates the choke. So when I go to apply the choke now, see how that choke rod actually come up and over that white tang? And it is moving it, but the problem now is it's moving it the wrong direction. It's forcing it open. That white tang should be on top of the choke lever, and if I can get in here, should move up like this. You can kind of see it operating in through the filter also, if you look, but this needs to come toward the throttle trigger, not back toward the cylinder. So that was my secondary issue. Now I have no choke because I've pulled that tang back and it's allowing the choke lever to ride up and over top. So let me get this off and I'll show you what's going on here. Okay, so I've looked at both of these, and to look at them side by side, they look relatively the same, other than, you know, this section right here where the spring is for the choke butterfly flap is a little different, but it functions the same. But what I've kind of figured, and it's going to be kind of hard to see it, but see how this This is the one from Wolf Creek. See how this tab has like the little extension on the end of it right there? This is the one from Farmertec. It does not have that little extension. That, my friends, is the issue with these MS380 kits and the choke issues that you run into. With this filter here installed, it works perfectly. I have the choke like it's supposed to. It runs up and over the top of the selector, and it goes to full choke, and it starts as it should. There's enough spring pressure because it's considerably heavier than what this one is, and it keeps it from, you know, sucking the flap shut, so it keeps it from basically choking itself out at full throttle. So I will install this, and then we'll show you what's going on, and then I'll wrap this up. Okay, I've got it installed, and I'll try to show. So down in here again, this one's going to be a little harder to see, but as I engage the choke, yeah, you can see that how that choke's now moving up, that flap, that arm. That was the issue with this filter here. Now with that little extension on the end of that arm, you can see that that is actually actuating the choke as it should. So if you purchase an MS380 clone from Farmertec or any other company for that matter, and you have an issue where you can't get it started, but it'll run if you put some gas down the throat of the carburetor, or if it acts like it's dying and not running at full throttle, more than likely your choke that's inside your air filter, this piece right here, is going to be your issue. And you're not going to work around it because it's not made properly. You're going to have to purchase a different air filter. And like I said, I purchased this one from, you know, the Duke's Saw Salvage Company. And this is what I got when I received my new filter. And as you can see, it fits like an OE filter should and operates like an OE filter should. And I can tell you it fixed my issue. Okay, hope this helps somebody out, because I beat my head around for a few weeks before I figured it out. Y'all take care. I'll see you in the next video.